Hello, the internet, and welcome to another episode of Enter the Popverse. I am Ashley Victoria Robinson, your host and video producer here in the Popverse. And the Popverse is, of course, a virtual realm created by Read Pop, where we are celebrating the best in TV, movies, and comics all the time. My dear friends, oh my goodness, happy Florida SuperCon weekend! That's definitely what an air horn sounds like. If you are watching this live when we first air, it is the beginning of Florida SuperCon weekend right now. I am in Miami, Florida, but I am also here in the Popverse chatting to you. If you want to come by and see everything that we're getting up to, there is still time to get some of the last straggling tickets if you go to floridasupercon.com. I would love to see you all East Coast people. Drop by the main stage where I am hosting a bunch of incredible panels, including The Boys, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, Our Flag Means Death. Oh, it is going to be a super fun, happy time. Okay, if you can't attend Florida SuperCon in person, but you've got like a little bit of FOMO because you have fear of missing out, not joy of missing out, I want to encourage you all weekend long to be sure that you're checking out thepopverse.com. We have a ton of great coverage. There's all kinds of stuff that you can see for everything that we are getting up to, and our team across the country in Anime Los Angeles are going to be getting up to all weekend long as well. And to make sure that you get the full experience, you never miss any of the panels that we might be live streaming, for example. Make sure that you get yourself a Popverse membership. That gives you full access to the full and complete Popverse experience. I also want to let you know that if you're not following us on socials, on Twitter and Instagram at Popverse, that is where you're going to be able to find what I am getting up to all weekend long at Florida SuperCon. So please go and check that out. We're really, really proud of everything that we're doing over there. Then we all got a break, and we'll be on to the next. Okay, my friends, before we get into all of that, there has been a lot of talk about Secret Invasion and what has been going on at Marvel. We teased with Graeme McMillan last week that we were going to be talking about Secret Invasion with a full spoilers. So I'm going to bring Graeme on now, and we're going to break down all of the Marvel stuff that's going on, all the MCU stuff in our future, how it ties into Secret Invasion, what we know, and what we are most looking forward to. And then we'll rewind and we'll set back to our DC interview. Okay, please join me in a proud Theater Kid round of applause as we welcome to the show today, Graeme McMillan. Welcome, Graeme, or maybe Scroll Graeme.
Oh, I can't turn green. Sorry. You're just getting the real human one. Although, to be completely like snarky and horrible, neither can Secret Invasion because there's a very small number of actual Skrulls in that show.
But also
the first episode of Secret Invasion has the great scene where they go to like the Skrull base. Spoilers, everyone. The show aired like two weeks ago. You're fine. Where they go to the Skrull base and the whole thing is like, home in my skin, and all of them, with the exception of like 5, are all human, and they have to come up with
yellow.
No, but they also have to come up with the plot for this, and they're like, yes, we're all staying human, even though we hate being human because it makes us harder to detect. And it really was like someone was looking at the camera and being like, we can't afford all the green makeup. I'm sorry, we just can't do it.
I mean, I can understand that coming from, if the t-shirt doesn't give it away, the Star Trek fandom, because you have a lot of things where all of the alien characters will turn human, or in the 90s, everyone just has like a nose or a forehead.
Just a nose.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get it. It's production value. It's makeup. It's like CG now. But great. Secret Invasion just seems to be the series that keeps on giving, but I don't know if it's giving in the most positive light possible, because people have nitpicks. And then, of course, there's the sort of AI conversation around it all.
The AI conversation is, I feel like Marvel thought that they were being very smart, and instead it went horribly wrong. I have told you off camera before that one of my favorite things in the world is reality shows where very dumb people think they're very smart. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk to the camera and be like, well, I'm a genius and no one can ever pull the wool over my eyes. And then for half an hour, be completely fooled.
Shout out to you, Mitchell from Love Island. Which Mitchell am I talking about? It could be 4.
But I think like the Marvel AI thing for Secret Invasion was kind of that, where they're like, look at us, we're going to be so smart, we're going to go, oh, AI, it's an invasion, but what are we talking about? What's the value of art? And instead, everyone immediately turned on them. When you have the director of Across the Spider-Verse
Yeah.
bad mouthing Marvel for doing this, that's when you know you've really badly screwed up. But to be fair, this is just me. I speak for myself. I don't
This is
speak
why
for
you're
you. I don't
still
speak for
Graham.
Popverse.
So if anyone's offended,
Yeah, no, I'm speaking
over.
purely for myself. I think Secret Invasion is not very good.
Mhm.
I think the first episode in particular is very bad, and part of me cynically is like, maybe you may give the interview about AI because otherwise people might be talking about the fact that this show is not very good. Because this show was hyped a lot. The show is genuinely the definition of eagerly anticipated,
Mhm.
and that first episode was rough, to say the least. It was. Uh, if Marvel did a version of Chekhov's gun, it would have been an hour of people pointing at the gun, being like, "It would be terrible if this gun went off.
Or would
If
it have been
this gun
Chekhov's
on the wall."
scroll? I'm gonna pat
You're just
myself.
lucky that I can't. Yeah. I was going to make obscene hand gestures to you and then remembered what we're doing. So you're lucky. You're lucky I remembered that, because otherwise that's very much what I would have done.
Don't make me edit things.
It's funny though, because I feel that Secret Invasion again has been this eagerly anticipated thing, has been this thing that for Marvel fans, for MCU fans who have had a rough 2023 so
Phase
far,
4?
I think. I was literally thinking this year, because Ant-Man 3 was, shall we say, not very good. Guardians 3 was great, but Ant-Man 3 was not very good. And then you had all the movies pushed back.
Yeah.
And you have allegations against two very high-profile Marvel actors happening. It's been a bad year for
And
Marvel
we have
fans.
the news that they're not going to be attending San Diego Comic-Con. We're getting no Hall H presentation this year.
But as I've argued in the past, I don't
Yeah.
think that's as big a deal as people think it is. I think it's literally standard operating procedure. They tend to do two, then take a year off, then do two, then
But
take a year
Twitter
off.
thinks it's a big deal. So in
Of
sort of
course.
the fan
Yeah, exactly.
sphere,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. But I think that Secret Invasion was being looked at by a lot of people as like, well, but this is the thing that will show everyone that everything's fine. And it's not. It feels rough. I feel that Marvel has, and part of this might just be its age, right? The MCU is now 15 years old.
Yep.
And it has become the dominant thing. It has become the go-to, the definition of superhero.
Yeah, it's a
For a lot of
monolith in a
people,
lot of ways.
right? And so it's got nothing. It's not an underdog in any respect anymore. And when you're 15 years in and you've been the leader for all that time, things are going to go wrong. And I think
Mhm.
that's where Marvel is. I think we're at the point where, especially something like Ant-Man 3, shows that the fundamentals are being lost in the rush to extend a franchise.
Mhm.
And fulfill expectations, as opposed to one of the things that's good about the Ant-Man series before this was it's confounded expectations.
Mhm.
And this instead was like, oh, but this one's the start of the what's it called? It's the multiverse saga. Sorry, I was going to say the Kang saga. And everything's beginning to show it maybe not show its age, but show that it's feeling the pressure, show that it's feeling the weight of like extending this large story. I mean, I think about the Marvel shows I've liked on Disney Plus, right? And honestly, it's been Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk.
Mhm.
What all three of those have in common is, for the most part, they're all basically standalones.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah,
the problem is Ms. Marvel then gets pulled into the Marvels immediately.
Oh, we'll talk about the Marvels.
But they all Hawkeye had the plus of basically coming out of a big event.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, sure, the new Black Widow and the new Hawkeye are going to go into whatever film they're going to end up in. Of course they are.
Not Young Avengers. Yeah.
Yes. They're going to call it New Avengers, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's
100% they're going to call it New Avengers. Yeah.
But Hawkeye was basically standalone. Ms. Marvel was basically standalone.
Mhm.
She-Hulk, for all intents and purposes, was basically standalone. But when you have something like Falcon and Winter Soldier, when you have WandaVision, when you have Loki or
Mhm.
Secret Invasion, it feels like this weird, unnatural, distended thing where they are very clearly being like, we're twiddling our thumbs for the first 3 episodes, but then we're going to get into the canon.
Mhm. Can
And it's this weird pacing.
can I ask you, as a comic fan, is it not the proud tradition of Secret Invasion to, like, start on a slump and then surprise everyone? Like, I would love to know the streaming numbers on this, because if you're not familiar, when Secret Invasion initially came out, the early reviews were, like, not it, and then issue 1 sold 250,000 copies, and it became this massive thing for a lot of, like, contemporary Marvel readers. It was a lot of people, it was my first introduction to the Skrulls, at least that I can, like, recall,
Mhm.
and it's become this thing that's always on the shelves, and you can always pick it up. It's a great Christmas gift, things like that. So, like, is this not just kind of what happens with Secret Invasion?
I mean, it might be, right? It might be the thing. It's funny. I was thinking of the Secret Invasion comic as I was watching the show as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish it had started with as good a sort of twist as you think you've been reading about Elektra and it's actually a Skrull. Again, spoilers, but
Spoilers, 15-year-old
that
spoilers.
comic's 15 years old. So
Near as Iron Man, I guess,
yeah,
ironically.
right. But that was a great hook,
Yeah.
and especially because it happened in an entirely different comic, so you really didn't think something was going to happen.
Mhm.
And instead, Secret Invasion, the television show, everything about it feels really predictable. Everything
Yeah.
about it. Because not just I've read the comic, but because it's doing everything you expect it to do in order to be a MCU event.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. When the MCU started, it was unpredictable. Even when it was doing, Thor isn't a particularly,
I love
revelatory
Thor
film.
1. I will hear no slander on
No,
Kenneth
I'm not.
Branagh's
I'm
Thor.
I'm 100% not slandering it, but it's not doing anything incredibly unusual, right? It's basically
100%.
telling a Thor story, right?
Yeah.
Iron Man is basically telling an Iron Man story,
Yeah.
but that was so unusual in itself
Mhm.
that it was kind of like, oh wow, they're really doing it. They're actually doing the thing. The Avengers film is not a particularly good film, but it's an Avengers story, and that in itself, seeing, Iron Man and Thor
That
and
weird
Hulk
circle
and
shot.
yes, was like, it's all those guys. It's all those guys from those different films. This is amazing. But that's become the norm, And after you've done Endgame, you can't go bigger anymore.
And
You
Endgame gives
just
me the
can't.
same vibe as when the DC TV shows did, Crisis on Infinite Earths. It was like, "And I finished my book." What a great
Yeah,
omnibus that
exactly.
was,
Here,
that I've been
here,
watching for 10 years.
here's your great finale,
Here's your
and
jumping off
we're
point.
done. Yeah, exactly, and we're done.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and when you made the joke about Phase 4 before, you're entirely right. Phase
That's my
4,
opinion. I'm Skrull Ashley. If you love Phase 4, more for you.
no, but Phase 4 was a studio going, what do we do next? Like
Yeah.
visibly on screen in front of you.
Yeah.
What do we do next? Here's some new characters, I guess. And I think the Shang-Chi movie is actually great. I think there's fun stuff in Phase 4.
I agree.
But clearly Marvel is like, how do we start back up again? Like, we've just finished. We've spent 10 years building to this particular story, and we've done it, and we don't know what's next.
Well, and what's actually next after Secret Invasion is Loki 2, which seems like if people are mixed on this, they're going to be extra mixed on Loki season 2, because
I think Loki
for
season
me,
2 has
go ahead.
Sorry, you go first.
I was gonna say, Loki season 2 for me, when the shows were initially coming out and we were like, what are Marvel shows? What are Marvel Disney shows? Are these even going to be worth it? Loki was the first one I saw a lot of people bailing on. And then obviously there's outside controversy surrounding someone who's going to be incredibly prominent in the series. So it's like mixed bag
we
on top of
assume.
conflict. Well, they put it in the stinger.
Yeah, but that's just it. Like, we don't know for sure if that's going to be something that they'll really pick up on in the show, or if because the way Marvel works is Loki season 2 could be leading to that stinger from Ant-Man.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Right? Because, it's a time travel show, first of all, but also it would not be surprising if that particular actor is barely in Loki season 2 and also was never intended to be there. Not that they've edited him out as much as, like, the entire show is going to be Loki being like, why am I in a different timeline?
Mm-hmm.
Quasi spoilers.
Yeah, I guess.
Again, I'm not sure if that counts as speculation spoilers, I guess.
If you like Steam the Volume, you'll love more Loki.
But there is an element of I think Loki's actually going to be more successful because it's again tied into like what we've been told is the big story.
Mm.
Secret Invasion feels like this weird side quest
Do you
because
also think that like
real talk,
Tom
who's been
Hiddleston?
thinking about
Sorry, do you also think Tom Hiddleston as an actor has like more pull than with the fan base
yes
than
than
Samuel L.
Sam Jackson?
Jackson?
Yeah, I
Just
do. I
everyone wants
actually
to
do.
kiss him.
Yes, I think that's a real thing. But also Secret Invasion again, the weirdest show, and so many choices have been made that I don't understand. But one of them is basing it around the idea that Sam Jackson is rubbish now,
Yeah,
and is basically rubbish for something that happened off screen.
yeah.
And I mean, the first episode is basically people being like, "You're old now. You've lost a step. That's it. You know, might as well just retire. Why are you even
Giving James
here? You're
Bond.
old." But it's like that's your first episode. That's your opener.
Yeah.
Just telling everyone that this character, who they already know and like as a super competent character, is because of something that's happened off screen,
Mhm.
no longer that thing.
Yeah.
Feels like such a weird flex. You and I both know, just as I think everyone who watches the show knows, he's going to turn out to be as competent as ever.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
single-handedly going to save the day. Of course he is. That's the arc of the show. You know, and also everyone remind me of this in like 4 weeks when the show's over and that's not the arc. But right now it feels like that's the arc of the show, right?
Yeah, come back and drag Scroll Graham when he's wrong in 4 weeks.
But
the only other thing
Loki,
that like Loki has going for it is Ki Kwan is joining the cast in some capacity.
but again, Loki season 2 has a lot going for it because we don't know the story, right? We basically know the story of Secret Invasion.
Yes, at least
right?
broadly. Yeah.
But even if you never read the comic, you know the story of Secret Invasion because the Skrulls aren't going to take over the Earth.
Yeah.
Right? They're not. One way or another, it's not going to happen. Okay? You also know that Nick Fury is, again, drag me if I'm wrong in 4 weeks, but Nick Fury is going to come out on top in some way.
Yeah.
Right? Loki season 2, you
die.
genuinely don't know what's going to happen in Loki season 2 at all. Like, no idea. It will tie in some way to the Kang stuff. That's it. You know, we literally know nothing else. And I think saying it's tying into the big storyline, you don't know what's happening, and it features the guy you want to kiss and the guy that you remember from either your youth or Everything Everywhere All at Once. You know, I think those are selling points in a way that Secret Invasion just doesn't have. So I think Loki's going to do much better.
Interesting. Okay, the next movie that Marvel has coming up is The Marvels, which you evoked earlier. Will we see Captain Marvel and why?
Will we see Captain Marvel in the Marvels?
Yeah.
I mean,
Wouldn't that be
yes,
great?
she's in the trailer.
No, but wouldn't that be great if we did like Marvel and we just did like the death of Captain Marvel and it was like super sad and tragic and like nobody knew. And the reason they're all together is because they're going to his funeral.
Wait, wasn't Jude Law wasn't he Marvel in the original?
Girl, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, wasn't that their twist? I thought that was their twist, that he was a version of Marvel.
Wasn't he the bad guy?
Yes.
Someone is dragging us right now.
I think you should, because I'll be honest, Captain Marvel as a movie was not one of my favorites, and it's not one I've revisited since seeing.
Same, I've seen it one time. Yeah.
So sorry, everyone.
But I'm excited for Cat. I'm excited for more like Kamala Khan. She's great.
I think the trailer for the Marvels is super fun. It looks 10 times as fun as Captain Marvel.
The poster's great too. I love all of the promo art that's coming out of it. It's stunning.
So we're a fan of that.
We're a fan of that. Okay. After that is Echo, which I know absolutely nothing about. Graeme?
It's a spin-off of Hawkeye.
Daredevil?
Well, yes, but Echo was in Hawkeye.
Yeah, can you tell I didn't watch Hawkeye?
Oh, you're missing out. Hawkeye was genuinely fun. Wait until Christmas, because it's a Christmas show, and watch Hawkeye. It's genuinely fun.
Okay.
But Echo was introduced in that, as was reintroduced the Kingpin, and I assume it's spinning out of those two things, and then leading into Daredevil, which we'll see when Daredevil happens, because it's currently on hiatus because of the strike. So
yeah,
we'll see. It's funny because Daredevil's on hiatus. Wonder Man's on hiatus.
Yeah.
I think there's another show that's on hiatus because of the strike.
House of the
And
Dragon should be on hiatus, but it's not.
I was very much like, oh, this is going to screw with their release schedule. And then they pushed all the movies back anyway, and it was like, oh, everything's fine if now a year later than it used to be.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my hope is for Echo. I hope that because Echo is uniquely positioned like Black Panther was to like really be a moment in like cultural history and like representation on a mass scale on screen. And I hope that Echo does what Black Panther did in 2018. Like I think it could be, it's so poised to be something so special and to serve two underserved communities. But that's also a lot of pressure to put on a television show led by a young person.
I was going to say that, but also we'll see how Disney and Marvel promote it.
Yeah. Or
Because
don't, as can be the case.
that was where I was cynically going. We'll see if it gets any real promotion for that, or if they're just like, it's a Marvel show.
Yeah.
Job done, and walk away.
Yeah. I also, it's something that I'm excited about because it can do anything. Like, yes, there's an Echo series, but Echo, of a lot of the characters that have been adapted lately, kind of has the least ongoing narrative at her back. Plus, Zon McLaren's going to be in it, and I love him. He's so great. And Canada's own Graeme McMillan, Canadian icon. Like, the supporting cast is fantastic.
I'm again, like like Loki, we don't know what Echo's going to be.
Yeah.
As you said, like Echo's comic canon is incredibly short and recently ends with her become Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like what do you do in an Echo show?
Wait,
can we possibilities do is there?
Can we do hot take on the Phoenix? Do we like the Phoenix? Like, how do you fall down on the use of the Phoenix? Graham, once again.
I think the Phoenix you mean as a comic character?
As like a concept, like, because here's my hot take. The Phoenix was great in the Phoenix saga. Should have, like, it's like the angels in Doctor Who. Should have just stayed away forever since then. Every time the Phoenix comes back, I'm like, no.
I'm trying to think of a nice way of saying, as long as Chris Claremont was writing the book, it was great. Because I think Rachel being the Phoenix in the late 80s stories is a really interesting thing to do with it. Especially because so many people were very scared of her because of that. They were like, oh, that's right. Like, you ate planets last time. And she was like, no, that was my mom from an alternate timeline. But, we don't talk about that. But now Phoenix is just whatever Marvel wants it to be. Yeah. Which is kind of sad. It's just become like, the visual. Otherwise, this character's plot engine, which is a loss, I think. Mm-hmm. But you never know. Maybe Echo's going to become Phoenix in the MCU, and that's going to be the introduction to the X-Men.
Maybe. I'm going to sneeze. And now that I've said it, I won't sneeze. But I really, really have to sneeze.
Please leave this in the actual...
I might, honestly. I asked you not to edit anything, so... All right, I think I'm not going to sneeze. Graham, there's like 12 more Marvel things coming out, but they are like so far away and we know so little of them. I would love to go round robin, and will you give me like a one sentence reaction or like...
Oh boy, okay, yeah. Sure.
Okay. Agatha Coven of Chaos.
Sure, it could be a camp masterpiece, but I don't trust Disney to do that.
Hoping for Witches, yay, Catherine Hahn. Deadpool 3.
I don't even know why it's happening.
I will not watch it. Captain America, Brave New World.
I want it to be great. I don't think it will because I didn't like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Anything with Anthony Mackie. Any more Anthony Mackie's good by me. Ironheart.
The most confusing part of Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, co-sign that. Liked the character in the comics. Daredevil Born Again.
I'm not a massive Daredevil fan, but I really like Charlie Cox, so I guess I'll tune in.
Same. I'm exactly the same. I love Charlie Cox. Thunderbolts.
I love Thunderbolts, but that's because I love Suicide Squad, so we'll see what happens. I will say I love the fact that Thunderbolts' creative team is now the creative team behind Beef on Netflix.
Blade.
I never have understood Blade, but let's hope it's good.
Man, more production problems, more pushed back than anything else. What if season 2?
I don't understand. Like, sure, someone loved What If season 1. It wasn't me.
My hot take is I think it's the second episode. What if Doctor Strange Lost His Heart is the best thing Marvel's made in 10 years and should have been a movie. Fantastic Four.
I want it to be good so badly, but I think casting is going to make or break it.
Why was it not in Phase 4, Marvel?
I know, right? Well, they didn't have the rights. That's why.
Armor Wars.
I love the comic and I love Don Cheadle, so I'm going to choose to be hopeful, but I think it's probably going to be a mess. Because again, if it's a Marvel TV show and it's closely tied to canon, I'm not going to like it.
I think Don Frank Cheadle Jr., Kansas City's favorite son, can make anything better.
I'm sorry, Don Frank Cheadle Jr.?
That is his full government name.
I love that you knew that off the top of your head.
That's a joke for my Geek History Lesson listeners. Every time we evoke him, it's Don Frank Cheadle Jr., Kansas City's favorite son. I hope he is. He's fabulous. Avengers: The Kang Dynasty.
I don't see how you're going to do Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame again, but good luck with that.
Interested to see if they'll retitle that. Avengers: Secret Wars.
I think the best Secret Wars is the first comic Secret Wars, not the second one, and it's the second one they're going to base it on.
I have no thoughts because I know nothing about Secret Wars, and that's
what?
all the.
Come on, Secret Wars. The first Secret Wars is a comic classic.
The first, okay, I have read the first Secret Wars. That's a lie. The OG Secret
that's when
Wars,
lots of characters just stand up in lines and say each other's names.
That
is an issue.
That is I believe, Hasbro tie-in that only existed to sell action figures. If you want to watch Magneto kiss Janet Pym, you're gonna love it, friends.
Why is Secret Wars called Secret Wars? Here's your comic book trivia.
Don't know.
Because the toy company did a survey of young boys and found out that the two words they responded to most were secret and wars.
Not young girls?
Just boys. Just boys. Because you know who wants lenticular shields? Just boys.
I mean, that's true. I don't want lenticular.
Gender absolutism. Just lenticular shields for boys.
Boys are the young boys, whatever that means, are solely responsible for all the covers in the 90s, especially those Robin Volume 3 Cry for Huntress ones and the Joker's Wild that had the cards on them.
I'm just saying, the kids who were 8 in 1984 were the kids who were buying Robin Joker's Wild in 92.
You're probably right. Boy, I do own every single issue of both of those miniseries.
We've gone off the rails, my friends.
Scroll Graham, before I let you go, summation, are we excited by things that are coming from Marvel or perplexed?
I think both. Depending on the project, it's entirely up in the air. I'm how can I put this? I'm intrigued.
That's fair.
I think that there's a sense of, I'm really curious to see if they can get over the flop sweat, for one of them. I want to see if they can pull it off. I'm not convinced they're going to, but I am very ready to be there to watch them do it and prove me wrong. I've been wrong so many times before. Everyone who watches this on a regular basis knows that I've been wrong so many times before.
Same. I mean, I was that person for a long time who was like, I'll believe a Deadpool movie when I see it. And honestly, I wish I lived in a movie where there was a universe where there was no Deadpool movies. Scroll Graham, where can people find you on Twitter so that they can debate your scroll existence or not?
At Graeme M, and it's the spelling that's down there.
I'm gonna change your lower third to say Scroll Graham next time.
I'm gonna have to pretend to be green.
You know what? I'm gonna ask you for Halloween, paint the whole dome for me, okay? I'm sure there's a filter we can figure out how to use.
You can ask. It's nice that you think that.
I'll come to your home and I'll paint your head green. All right, Graeme, I'm going to banish you back into the Popverse. Thank you for joining us today to talk all things Marvel. Bye.
Goodbye.
I don't know if there's anyone in Team Popverse who has more fun than Graeme and I. I'm just saying. Sorry to everyone else. Graeme and I have a fun time. Or is it Scrollgram? We'll never know. Or maybe we will. Who can say? There's a long, long time. I would love to know down in the comments here and on our social media at Popverse says, which Marvel project are you most anticipating? What are you most excited about? I also want to remind you, carrying over from last week, that the Barbie v. Oppenheimer debate is going on in Team Barbieheimer. Which are you more excited for? Please let us know, because we're going to continue covering this debate as we head toward what could possibly be the biggest movie weekend of the entire summer. I can't wait till we're back together live so that we can have that debate on the air. My friends, I know one of the reasons that you came is for his amazing picture on the incredible thumbnail that I designed. We have an amazing comic book writer, Eisner nominated, no less. Okay, please join me in putting our hands together for a Theater Kid round of applause for an Eisner nominated writer and musician that you know from 007, Marvel Zombies, Superman, Action Comics, Green Lantern, Hulk. Please join me in welcoming Phillip Kennedy Johnson to the show. Hi, Phillip, and welcome to Enter the Popverse today.
Hey, Ashley, thanks for having me on.
How are you doing today?
Pretty well. I was traveling, as you can see by my illustrious hotel room.
Living that exotic comic book writer life, right? So you've been working on Action Comics for a minute, and as readers, we've seen it slowly transform into being a Superman family book, which I'm biased, I love very, very much. And I want to know, was that your plan the whole time?
Actually, no. Well, the Warworld saga was the plan for a long while, and I wanted to make it this gigantic, like, epic thing that would be evergreen, that would really define who Superman is, but in a different context than we usually see him. And it was this, it was a very different, kind of take as far as the setting and everything. And while he was on Warworld, there was a lot of fan clamor to return to, like, they miss Lois, they miss Jimmy, they miss, Connor and John and the whole crew. And there was so much of that I was like, what if we, I don't know, it got me thinking about the old 80-page giants, 100-page giants I had when I was a kid, when you would see these different, not exactly an anthology, but kind of like the different stories that all kind of celebrate different characters in that crew. The Batman family had their own as well. I just love those books, man. And it was a way for us to get to know a lot of the lesser known characters in the DC, in the shared universe, not just the heroes, but the villains too. So we kind of got this idea to make Action Comics that sort of thing, where you'd have 3 stories per issue and get to spotlight different characters in the family, not just in the backup stories, but also in the main story as well. So it just kind of slowly took shape as the vision for the post Warworld saga book.
I mean, speaking of, like, lesser known Superman characters, we've got the Super Twins, which is so exciting. Like, where did that come? Was that your pull? Like, whose choice? I'm so hyped to have them back in mainstream continuity.
Thanks. That was me. Yeah. I don't know. Like, there was part of that was just the way that everyone responded to the Dan Jurgens, Pete Tomasi book, seeing Lois and Clark as parents and seeing, like, Superman as a super dad just feels so good. Like, seeing him as the father to a young kid. And I wanted to see what it meant. I mean, the John thing was all still pretty fresh, and I wanted to see how that affected not just John, but and Lois and all that. So when Superman was on Warworld, he's still going through all that. He's still kind of mourning the loss of those years, and I wanted to see how that would kind of come to fruition. And so he finds these kids who do not want his help. I mean, they are fully indoctrinated with Warworld propaganda, and they're all part of Mongol's, like, cult of slavery that he has up there, and they see Mongol as their Superman. Like, Mongol is Superman to them. And as he slowly wins them over, and they slowly see who he really is and who they want to be themselves, he just kind of adopts them as his own. And it was just this, again, it was kind of thing that organically came out of it. There was a time in the very, very early stages where one of those kids was actually supposed to die. And when it got close to it, when it got close, I was like, I think this is going to be a huge mistake. I don't think we can do this in the Superman world. Like, this is gonna hurt way too much. It's gonna be like the Glenn moment in Walking Dead. Like, we can't do it. So I really like the idea of them being the Super Twins instead, even though they're not literal twins. They're more like Irish twins, where Otho Ra is actually a little bit older. I kind of like the shorthand for them being twins, and I love their relationship, and I love the way that they tie the super family into the fourth world, kind of, and I don't know. It just made sense to keep them both around and to bring them all home and just grow out the super family that way.
I would have never considered that from their perspective, Mongol would be their version of Superman or that sort of Ubermensch archetype. And you've really, like, blown my mind with that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's the importance of the chain on Warworld was this huge
Mhm.
thing. Where for every battle you win, you get another link of the chain, and through your victory, your reach grows, and you're trusted with more weight because you're stronger. And they see it as this great sign of pride and honor. And like how I'm like this. The longer your chain is, the more my enemies fear me. And so if you try to take it, if you try to free them,
Mhm.
it's like Mongols mind game, and that's exemplified in those kids because they were born there basically,
Yeah.
and to them Mongol is like the greatest there is, and strength is or cruelty is kindness because it makes you stronger, and kindness makes you weaker. So it's actually cruelty, and everything is all they're all screwed up, and they and Superman is the thing that teaches them who they were actually supposed to be as part of the same lineage.
So not only are you the architect of the ever expanding Superman family, but you're becoming the architect of other characters in the Justice League. I would love to ask you also about working on Green Lantern, because you're now dealing with Superman and Green Lantern, who are both superheroes with these high, I was going to say high power sets, high intensity power sets that do super heroics in space. So how do you get into the minutia of telling a Green Lantern story versus a Superman story where they're different and unique and you're not leaning back on the same tropes all the time?
Um, actually, there's a so my I went to school for music. Actually, I was a
Mhm.
musician before I got into writing, and I still kind of rely on a quote by Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Monk was a great jazz
Ooh.
piano player, and he was a great improviser and composer. And when you hear him play piano, especially solo, when it's just him at the piano, uh,
Mhm.
as he'll play the melody, what we call the head in jazz. He play the head, and then he plays improvised melodies, and they spiral further and further away from the melody, from the composed melody, and it kind of finds its way back at the end. But you never lose sight of the melody completely. And so
Mhm.
a quote that he's famous for is "revere the melody,"
Ooh,
or
love that.
or revere the theme. And that is an approach I feel like needs to be taken with characters as iconic and timeless as Superman and Green Lantern and
Mhm.
Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Batman. These are all there's a theme that needs to be revered throughout. So Superman is the champion of the oppressed.
Mhm.
That to me, he was quoted as that, or he was called that in Action Number One. And I mean, truth, justice, the American way, all that stuff is super important. But to me, champion of the oppressed is his mission statement.
Mhm.
That's who he is, and I tried to make that super clear throughout the War World saga, and we're still doing it now in other ways now that he's back on Earth. John does not have John Stewart, Green Lantern, does not have as concise a catchphrase, but to me, I see him as the Green Lantern who discarded his mask immediately. Like he's the guy
Ooh.
who,
Mhm.
I don't need this. I'm not gonna hide my face. Who was inspired by his mother, the great civil rights leader,
Mhm.
who who's unlike the other Green Lanterns, was never the dark horse pick or the unlikely hero or the one I mean, Hal Jordan is one of the goats for sure, but
Yeah.
he was always he was always kind of the underdog or being underappreciated, or like, oh, this guy's not, he doesn't have what it takes, or he's reckless, he's stupid, he doesn't have what it takes, and then he defies all that and becomes the greatest ever.
Mhm.
Uh, Guy Gardner, Kyle was just a comics artist. I mean,
Kyle.
that was awesome. That's who I grew up with too.
Me too.
And they're not. Sometimes the Ring seems to see something in these Green Lanterns that we don't. Like
Mm.
it takes us a minute to see what the Ring found in them. But John Stewart was just the obvious choice. He is the consummate superhero in every way. I mean, he began, especially for Green Lantern,
Mhm.
someone who can make anything they want from sheer will and imagination. Whereas Kyle was the artist. He had that crazy imagination and this idea of craft and form and imagination. Hal's fearless, and Guy too in his way. And but for John Stewart, he was an architect.
Mhm.
Just the perfect foundation for Green Lantern, but also a leader of soldiers, a tactician, a warrior, just everything it takes to be a Green Lantern. He was just the clear choice from the very beginning. So, and in fact, following the Jeff Thorne run, he doesn't even have a ring, and he basically is his own ring himself. So that's something I tried to show in the Dark Crisis World Without a Justice League one shot that we did, show that another world in which he didn't need a ring anymore, that he was in fact the power source for which all the lanterns in his world drew their power. And in this story that we're about to tell, we're going to see John become that version of himself. Like he's the lantern, doesn't need a ring, that he is himself the ring, and kind of has it in himself to show everyone else, what's possible.
Oh, my brain is going ion. I'm so excited to see how this plays out. And your description of John as the consummate superhero is never something that I would have thought of, but when you said it, it's like, yes, that is so correct. That is so right about who he is, especially in comparison to a lot of the rest of the Justice Leaguers and the Green Lanterns. I know we're here to talk DC, but I have like a teeny tiny little Marvel question, because you are playing in the world of the Hulk right now, and that is another tone shift. Like, you are the master of, and maybe it's the musician and the Thelonious Monk of it all, of tone, and the Hulk book is very scary, especially for superheroes. But I want to ask, if we were in a universe where we had Avengers and JLA, would you pit Superman versus the Hulk, and who would win?
God, see, that's a trap. I can't say he's going to win. That's not how it works. But maybe Superman versus Hulk. Honestly, like, one thing I've kind of always been curious to see is Superman versus Thor, actually. Hulk. If I was going to pit Hulk against someone. God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What do I do? I don't know. I need to pass. Trap. I shouldn't be thinking this way on the internet right now. Like,
it is a trap. It's absolutely a trap for Twitter.
Another great example of just revering the theme. So Hulk has his own theme. The theme of Hulk is he man or monster? And this is, originally was meant to be a horror book, and in my opinion, that kind of found its way into the superhero stuff that Marvel was doing at the time. But I want to see more of that horror stuff. I mean, kind of like what Al Ewing was doing on Immortal, but more like folk tales and horrific creatures, not so much black science. So we'll see how it goes.
Ooh, folk tales. I was like, yes, please give me more witchy vibes from the Hulk of all characters. I feel like you've dropped a lot of great knowledge bombs, but I would love to ask you, what is your advice for aspiring comic book writers who are watching?
I would say this is something I actually learned from, I want to say it was a Blair Butler interview with Charles Soule, maybe. I think he himself said he heard it somewhere else, but he said, be good, be cool, and be around. And I found that to be extremely useful. Be good, meaning, of course, just, put in your time and get good at your craft, like get all the bad stories out and in the world so that you can get to the good ones. Like, just by creating a huge body of work. I mean, you're a creator too, all this. Just, you got to get the bad ones out of your system to get to the good ones, and hopefully someday the great ones. So just write a ton, but also read a ton, and just find your heroes, emulate what they do. So be good, be cool, meaning don't be a jerk online. Don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk at conventions or BarCon, or just be somebody that people want to be around, that people want to work with. And yeah, I mean, the internet is not the place to be like edgy or angry or abusive. It's a place to be, witty and fun and cool and supportive. Find work by people you admire or believe in, and help them, share their work. And be around, meaning just be a part of your community, around your comic store, around the the online places where you hang out with like-minded people who like a lot of the same stuff as you do, or who know things you want to know, or just people you want to engage with. And also at conventions, a big part of the industry happens at cons. So go to cons. Be part of the community, put yourself out there, and also find places to share your work, whether it be online or, pitching people or just talking about it. Just put your work out there and let it be seen by your peers, and, just expose yourself to the world.
And then lastly, but not leastly, because here in the Popverse, we celebrate the best in TV, movies, and comics. What are you geeking out about right now that you're not working on?
Oh man, I'm not working on it.
I know, no superheroes, no comics.
I know. A shameful amount of my reading is done as research for the stuff that I'm actually working on right now.
Yeah.
I have been, my son, I read to my son every night, no matter what. Even when I'm on the road, we'll find ways to read before bed.
Mhm.
And he's been on this, he's just kind of broken the barrier and he's into the place where creepy stuff is cool.
Yes.
Yeah, which is really fun for me. So I've used that as an opportunity to get back into my entire Hellboy run. So I read him Hellboy all the time, and I love that stuff. He's got this this white noise app that he uses to go to bed, and it makes us like there's like a stream and rain and like frogs chirping. He calls that sound the frogs of Cavendish Hall now. From that first arc, I was like,
I love that.
so that's it's so fun. It's so fun. I saw the Flash movie, and it's been that is kind of led me to rediscover some of the old movies and like kind of show my son some of that stuff too. Honestly, my son is the thing that I celebrate a lot of fandom with. I'm kind of going back and re-experiencing some things with him, and that's been really fun. Gosh, what else? I'm trying to find time to read a ton of the work that my esteemed colleagues are putting out at DC.
Mhm.
It's been really fun to read the work that Jeremy's doing on Green Lantern, on the other part of the Green Lantern books. The stuff that Josh is doing on Superman as I'm writing action. Tom Taylor's book, Dark Knights of Steel, is always a treat to read. The upcoming Night Terror stuff is super dope.
Oh, I'm so ready for it.
Yeah. Let's see. I know I did not get around to watching Andor when it came out, and I'm watching that now, along with some of the Star Wars Visions animated shorts. That's been really fun because I miss a lot of those, and I love seeing the different stylistic takes. So yeah, off the top of my head, that's what I'm doing.
Well, Phillip Kennedy Johnson, thank you for raising the next generation of nerds. Thank you for giving us stories to enjoy, and thank you for dropping so much knowledge on this episode of Enter the Popverse.
You too, Ashley. Always, it's always a pleasure to see you and to see the work that you and Jason do. It's always a privilege.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to send you back into the Popverse, and we will talk very soon.
All right, very soon.
And I also want to remind you, because it is the last weekend in June, it is the last week of Pride Month, that Popverse has curated a bunch of amazing Pride-specific content. Shout out to our deputy editor, Tiffany Babb, for keeping this list of all of our coverage live all month long. Go and check that out and make sure that you are doing your best job this Pride. Okay, I'm just really, really proud of a lot of the Pride stuff that we've done, and I want to make sure that you see it while the season is here and the time is ripe. My friends, we have reached the end of the show. Touchy day. I know it's very, very, very sad. I want to remind you, of course, that all weekend long, I am going to be at Florida SuperCon. Bam, right here. Please come and join me, because I would like to see you there, and we're doing a ton of fun stuff. There's also going to be lots of amazing coverage coming out of both Florida SuperCon and Anime Los Angeles. Again, we are covering both conventions on both sides of the country this weekend, coming out on our YouTube channel at, of course, thepopverse.com. Some of it is going to be for members only, so if you don't want to miss a single thing that anyone on Team Popverse is getting up to, you want to get yourself a Popverse membership right down there. Thank you so much for joining me here in the Popverse, a virtual realm created by Repop. I have been Ashley Victoria Robinson, your video host and producer here in the Popverse. I've had such a wonderful time today. I will see you live next weekend. Stay safe, my friends. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.